movie song from 1981 deserves the crown. We've ranked the top 10 based on Billboard Gold, but now it's your turn to decide. As you watch, keep your ears sharp and your favorites ready, because we want to know which track wins the fan poll. From tearjerkers to toe tappers, these songs didn't just support the movies, they defined them. This is the top 10 movie songs of 1981. Let the countdown and the fan vote begin. Drop your number one in the comments, and don't forget to hit subscribe to join more soundtrack showdowns through the decades. At song number 10, we dive into the smoky, secretive world of espionage with Sheena Easton's For Your Eyes Only. A track that doesn't just open a James Bond film, it opens a portal into vulnerability wrapped in velvet vocals. Imagine being 22, suddenly catapulted into global stardom, and handed the mic to carry the torch of a legendary spy franchise. That was Sheena Easton's reality. Just months before, she was a newcomer with a hopeful glimmer in her eye. Now, she was the face and voice of 007's latest adventure. But success, like a double agent, comes with two faces. While the spotlight shined brightly on Easton, behind the scenes she was navigating the whirlwind of fame and the weight of expectation. Then comes that haunting line, For Your Eyes Only. The nights are never cold. It's a lyric soaked in secrecy and longing. In the movie, Roger Moore's Bond is more emotionally exposed than ever, and Easton's voice becomes his inner monologue, singing not just to a lover, but to a hidden ache. The lyric isn't just about romance. It's about the cold that creeps in when your life is a series of disguises. For Easton, who was suddenly everywhere, yet still new to the game, the lyric feels personal too. She was on every screen, every radio, but who really knew her beyond the music? That paradox, the intimacy of being seen by millions, yet known by none, echoes through every note of this Bond classic. Coming in at number 9, we find ourselves wrapped in the delicate embrace of a ballad so timeless, even its title feels like a promise. Endless Love by Diana Ross and Lionel Richie. It's not just a love song, it's the love song, soaring, aching, and utterly unforgettable. But what makes this duet even more remarkable is what was happening behind the scenes. Diana Ross, after years as the crown jewel of Motown, was striking out on her own, navigating the uncertain waters of independence. Lionel Richie, meanwhile, was inching away from the Commodores, wondering if the world would embrace his voice without the band behind him. Your eyes, they tell me how much you care. This wasn't just a duet, it was a crossroads, captured on vinyl. Then there's that line, "My love, there's only you in my life." At first listen, it seems like something from a high school diary. Sweet, simple, but that's the magic. In the context of the film, where Brooke Shields and Martin Hewitt portray young lovers swept up in a passion too intense for their age, it rings with innocence and obsession. And for Ross and Richie, it was more than a lyric, it was a mirror. Ross was singing it to a new phase in her life, one where she was finally calling the shots. Richie was whispering it to a future he was only beginning to imagine. That sincerity, that quiet power behind such a tender line, is why the song still tugs at hearts today. Floating into number 8 like a soft breeze through an open window is Air Supply yearning into an anthem. By 1981, Graham Russell and Russell Hitchcock had carved out a unique space in music, emotional, unapologetically tender, and somehow both grand and intimate. They weren't the typical rock stars, and they didn't try to be. That was their magic. While others strutted across stages, Air Supply stood still and let kind of awe. They were still stunned by how American audiences embraced two Aussies, pouring their hearts into every the one that you love. It's simple, but it hits like a whisper in a crowded room, desperate to be heard, to be seen, to matter. In the movie The One That You Love, this lyric echoes the aching distance between lovers who aren't sure if they're still reaching for each other or for a memory. It's that delicate space between being present and being forgotten. For Air Supply, this lyric was more than romantic. It was a reflection of their own journey. After years of dreaming and writing songs that dared to feel deeply, they were finally being recognized. Here I am, they seemed to say, not with ego, but with gratitude. And with every soaring harmony, they reminded us that vulnerability isn't weakness. It's a kind of strength most can't put into words. But Air Supply could. Sliding into number 7 is a song that feels like it was written in the quiet after a storm. Marty Ballin's Hearts. This isn't a track that shouts to be remembered. It lingers, gently, like a memory you're not quite ready to let go of. For Ballin, who had once been the soaring voice behind Jefferson's Starship, Hearts marked a turning point, a deliberate step away from the roaring crowds and psychedelic edge of his past. In 1981, he stripped it all back. No more cosmic rock operas, just a man, his voice, and a truth he needed to sing. The result was a song that didn't demand attention, it earned it. Then comes the line that breaks you soft. Hearts can break and never mend. It's a lyric that doesn't just describe pain, it accepts it. In Secondhand Hearts, where Robert Blake and Barbara Harris play two flawed souls fumbling through love, that lyric becomes a quiet confession. Sometimes, no matter how much we try, love doesn't fix us, and Balin knew that too well. After years of artistic highs and industry frustrations, his heart bore its own cracks. Yet in this song, he doesn't sing from bitterness. He sings from survival. Hearts is less about heartbreak and more about what remains afterward. The ache, the memory, the music. It's a reminder that some songs don't need fireworks, just honesty and a heart that's still beating. At number 6, we land in a place no one expected, a superhero sitcom with a theme song that soared beyond the screen. Joey Scarberry's Believe It or Not from The Greatest American Hero became an anthem for the underdog. Believe it or not, I'm walking on air. I never thought I could feel so free. Scarberry wasn't new to music. He had been grinding since childhood, chasing the elusive dream of a hit. For years, he hovered on the edge of recognition, always close, never quite arriving. And then, almost out of nowhere, this quirky theme song launched him into the spotlight. It was ironic, really. A man who'd been overlooked for so long finally found success singing about surprise success. I never thought I could feel so free. The hook, Believe It or Not, I'm Walking on Air, says everything. In the TV show, it's about an ordinary man given extraordinary powers. But for Scarberry, it was biographical. He was finally airborne, feet barely touching the ground, unsure of how long the flight would last. There's something beautifully human about that lyric. It's not confident, it's amazed. Just like the show's hero stumbling through flight, Scarberry's career was lifted by an unexpected gust, and for a brief, shining moment, he soared. The lyric became a cultural wink, a hopeful hum for anyone who's ever dreamed of something bigger and finally got their chance to fly. And now, floating gracefully into number 5, we're swept away by the velvet touch of Christopher Cross and Arthur's theme, Best That You Can Do. It's the kind of song that makes you feel like you're drifting above the city lights at midnight. Coming off a Grammy sweep, Cross was riding a wave of acclaim. But with that came a quiet pressure to prove the magic wasn't fleeting. And then came Arthur, a film that blended comedy and heartache, starring Dudley Moore as the lovable drunk billionaire torn between comfort and true love. Cross's song didn't just complement the movie, it became its heartbeat. The lyric, when you get caught between the moon and New York City, feels like a dream. It's whimsical, sure, but beneath that charm is a deep ache. Arthur is stuck, torn between duty and desire, and the lyric captures that emotional gridlock perfectly. For Cross, the metaphor was personal too. He was balancing newfound fame with the need to remain true to himself. In a world that pulls in 100 directions, sometimes the best thing you can do is surrender to love and hope the landing is soft. This wasn't just another ballad, it was a sigh, a smile, and a slow dance under city lights all at once. At number 4, we come to a song that feels like a whisper from beyond, a final, heartfelt message wrapped in melody. John Lennon's Woman, released just months after his tragic death, plays like a love letter sealed in eternity, sacred about it. In his final chapter, Lennon laid down the ego, the politics, the sharp edges, and gave us something raw and unguarded. This wasn't the rebel or the dreamer. This was a man, a husband, a father, looking back with gratitude and remorse. His devotion to Yoko Ono had long been public, but this song made it deeply personal. And then he sings, "Woman, I can hardly express my mixed emotions at my thoughtlessness." It's not just romantic, it's a reckoning. In the documentary film Imagine, John Lennon, these words carry more than meaning. They carry weight. The lyric becomes a quiet confession of all that wasn't said, all that was misunderstood. For audiences, it felt like eavesdropping on something sacred. And for Lennon, it was the sound of healing, a gentle surrender to love's complexity. The irony is crushing. Just as he found peace, he was taken. But he left behind this song, a tender legacy that continues to speak in the softest, most honest voice. Now, stepping confidently into number 3, we find Kenny Rogers crooning his way into hearts with the unforgettable Lady.
Lady, for so many years I thought I'd never
It's the kind of ballad that doesn't just sit on a playlist, it holds you still. Written by Lionel Richie, who was just beginning his crossover from funk to full-blown pop sensation, and delivered by Rogers with that smoky, gravel, and honey voice, the song was an instant classic. Rogers, already beloved in the country world, expanded his reach with this track, showing the world that tenderness and twang could live in harmony.
I'm your knight in shining armor, and I love you.
And how do you ignore a line like, "Lady, I'm your knight in shining armor, and I love you"? On paper, it's almost too sweet. But in Urban Cowboy, where John Travolta and Deborah Winger navigate the rugged ups and downs of modern romance, it becomes a lifeline. It's the lyric you whisper when your pride's been stripped away, and all that's left is sincerity. Rogers doesn't oversell it, he just believes it, and that's why it lands. For a moment, even the roughest cowboy believes in fairy tales. Lady wasn't just a hit, it was a hand outstretched across a crowded dance floor, asking for one more slow turn under the neon lights. Charging into number 2 with the force of a runaway train is the Rolling Stones' Start Me Up. A track that didn't just ignite the charts, it roared with the kind of swagger only decades of rock and rebellion could earn. By 1981, the Stones weren't the fresh-faced rebels of the 60s. They were battle-tested legends. And yet, instead of coasting, they doubled down. Start Me Up emerged from a vault of discarded reggae attempts and jam sessions, refined into pure stadium thunder. This wasn't a comeback, it was a warning shot. The Stones weren't done, not by a long shot. And then Mick Jagger drops that unforgettable line, "You make a grown man cry." It's not just provocative, it's primal. In Let's Spend the Night Together, their electric concert film, the lyric crackles with sweat and defiance. It captures something more than lust. It's about the shock of still feeling that much after all these years. For the band, it was proof that fire doesn't fade, it simmers. And when it's lit again, it burns even hotter. The lyric feels like an exclamation from men who'd lived, lost, raged, and survived. Still loud, still dangerous, and still capable of reducing an arena to ash. And finally, we arrive at number 1, an unexpected queen crowned with a raspy whisper. Kim Carnes' Bette Davis Eyes wasn't supposed to dominate the airwaves, but sometimes magic sneaks in quietly. Carnes had spent over a decade behind the scenes, writing, recording, grinding through an industry that often overlooked her unique voice. Then came this synth-soaked stunner, a song that was as much about mystique as it was about momentum. With one breathy line, Carnes went from underrated to unforgettable. She's got Bette Davis eyes. It sounds like flattery, but it's really a power statement. In Private Lessons, where seduction and blurred boundaries take center stage, the lyric mirrors the film's strange tension between innocence and control. For Carnes, the line was her reinvention, sly, sultry, and fully in command. It wasn't just about a woman with captivating eyes. It was about presence, danger, and the kind of confidence that doesn't ask for permission. That lyric didn't just describe a character, it created one. And in doing so, it etched Carnes into pop history with a single stare. That's our list. But now it's time to settle this in the comments. Did we get it right? Or did your number 1 not even make the cut? Cast your vote for the best movie song of 1981, and let's see which track wins the fan poll. We're reading every single comment. Hit that subscribe button and join us for more epic throwbacks, movie music battles, and nostalgia-packed countdowns every week.